I've been thinking about posting a video blog for a long time, and I thought that today was an appropriate time to begin. Almost 5 years ago, in 2010, I was in the United States, and I received a phone call from a friend of mine who said that there was a couple who lives in Chicago who wants to come visit in Hebron. He asked me to call them and set up the trip. I get a lot of calls like that, a lot of requests, and I asked my friend, what's their name, what's their phone number? And he said, Dr. Bill Caro and Joan Peters. And when he said Joan Peters, I froze. I literally froze. And I managed to say, Joan Peters, you mean from time immemorial? And he said, yeah, Joan Peters. So I thawed myself out, and I gave him a call. And I said, Joan, you're my hero. Your book is almost like a Bible. And it would be such an honor to take you around Hebron. And she and her husband did come to Hebron. We toured. We went to Tel Romeda, went to Marta Machpelah, we went to the other neighborhoods. I interviewed her also, and have an interview of her with her husband standing in front of the tomb of the patriarchs in Hebron. For me, it was a very, very special and unique moment, very special and unique time. Joan and I kept in touch. A few weeks ago, I received a phone call that she'd suffered a stroke and she was hospitalized. I was able to obtain her phone number, and a few days later, I gave her a call and told her I was standing outside the Tomb of the Patriarchs, exactly where we had been 4.5 years earlier. I told her I was praying for her, that we loved her, and we're praying for her speedy and full recovery. Unfortunately, last night, I received notification that Joan Peters had passed away. It's a tremendous loss. It's a loss for Am Yisrael, and it's a loss for truth and for honesty. Joan, in 1984, came to Israel as a young journalist to write a book about the poor Palestinians. And her book, because of her honesty and because of her objectiveness, actually came out to be quite something else. Just to give you an example of what she writes here. She writes the very, very beginning of the book. It was not until this book was well underway that I reluctantly confronted the historical factors underlying the Palestinian problem. The book was originally meant to be solely an investigation of the current plight of the Arab refugees, as that subject then was still generally known. At the end of her introduction, she writes like this. This book analyzes fundamental concepts in the West's perception of the Arab-Israel-Palestine conflict against the background of the movements of the region's peoples. In a strict sense, then, this book focuses on the quintessential and unrecognized role played by unknown or considered traditions, particularly the importance of traditional population movements in the reality of the Arab-Israeli-Palestinian conflict. In the human sense, it is about the onrushing of peoples, about flight from conquest, from persecution, from corruption, from habit, and from poverty. In essence, it is about the flight from fact. And that is probably one of the most important lines, one of the most important statements made in today's generations. That we must not flee from fact. That we must not rewrite history to fit our own national agendas. And so it is with other countries and peoples in the world. That's why this book became almost the Bible of the people, of the pro-Israel people around the world who wanted to really understand the truth about Jews living in Israel and the truth about Arabs living in Israel. As Joan writes, the very, very beginning of the first chapter here, she brings down several quotations from several different people that are very, very interesting. She writes a quote from Musa Alami in 1948. "The people are in great need of a myth to fill their consciousness and imagination. King Hussein of Jordan in 1960. Since 1948, Arab leaders have approached the Palestine problem in an irresponsible manner. They have used the Palestine people for selfish and political purposes. This is ridiculous and I could say even criminal." And from an Arab-Palestinian military strategist in 1974. "The nations of Western Europe condemned Israel's position despite their guarantee of security. They understood that their dependence upon sources of energy precluded their allowing themselves to incur Arab wrath." This is from time immemorial, by a woman who is a beacon of light, a beacon of truth, a beacon of humanity, a beacon of objectivity, a beacon of honesty, a woman whose sole purpose was to bring to the world the truth. And that's what she did in this book from time immemorial. And Joan Peters will be remembered by all of us for time immemorial. And speaking as a representative of the Jewish community of Hebron, I can only but convey my condolences to her husband, Bill Caro, who, by the way, if the name rings a bell to some of you, is a direct descendant of the author of the Shulchan Aruch, the major codification of Jewish law written by Rav Yosef Caro in the 1500s in Sfat in Israel, where he'd come to live from Turkey. I can only offer her and her family and her friends our condolences, knowing that Joan really did fulfill her place in the world. She accomplished a major, major mission, a mission that nobody before and nobody after has yet even tried to undertake. We will miss her sorely, and we are sure that her memory will be blessed forever. This is David Wilder from Hebron.